So welcome back to the World Class Basics series. The first subject that we're going to tackle is time. I don't know a business owner, I've never met an entrepreneur that's got enough time. In fact, I think it's the story of the 21st century. It was always true, but every business owner, every business leader, almost by definition, has more to do than he or she has got time to do it in. So, as somebody once said, if we can't control time, we can't control anything else. But of course we can't control time. All we can hope to do is control what we do with our time. Time just is. So I think it's really important to have a system, a process, an understanding to enable us to use time effectively. I believe that the only real difference between people that are really successful and people that are less so is what they do with their time. And we're all born with the same amount of time. So how do I recommend we go about deciding what we do with our time? As I've already said, we've all got more stuff to do than we've got time to do it in. So I used to say that it's all about prioritizing. Actually, we've got so much stuff to do now, and we're so constantly bombarded by outside demands on our time from social media, emails, the whole shooting match, that actually one of the most important decisions isn't prioritizing. It's very simply, what are we going to do and what are we not going to do? Now, the very best method I've ever come across is quite an old one, and this is about deciding what we do with our time. So let me try and explain it to you. There's a number of ways of looking at the stuff that we need to do. One effective way is to understand whether stuff is urgent or not urgent, and whether stuff is important or not important. Now, when I do this with clients, we'll spend a long time and I'll say to them, how do we know whether something's urgent or not urgent? And eventually they'll get to a workable definition. Now remember, if we're going to use this as criteria on which to make decisions, we've got to be very firm and clear in our definitions. I think the best definition is something's urgent if it's got a timeline or a deadline on it. If it hasn't, then it's not urgent. Now, most people understand that more or less instinctively. So that's relatively simple. What gets more difficult is when I say to people, what makes something important as opposed to not important? And I guarantee I get a whole range of answers, some of which are fairly valid. But remember, if we're going to use this as a decision-making tool, we've got to be very clear on our definitions. And in my experience, the only real definition that works is this. Something is important as long as it pertains to our goals, to where we want to get to. It therefore follows that actually if we don't have clear goals, if we don't have a clear destination in mind, then we can't possibly decide what's important and what's not important. So just think for a moment, if you're struggling with time, how clear are you on your goals? Now, I'm sure we'll come back to goals at some point, but once you know what your goals are, you stand half a chance of deciding what's important and what's not important. Now, I will send you this if you write to me and ask me. That's ian@kinnery.co.uk. I'll send you a time analysis matrix to help you with this. But fundamentally, this box here, stuff that's not urgent, so there's no timeline, there's no deadline, and stuff that's not important, basically, that's just distraction. And I'll leave you and I'll encourage you to make a list of stuff that's in your life, stuff that's taking up time, that's neither urgent or important, but it's distracting you. And that would be a great not to do list. Here, stuff that's urgent, so there is a timeline on it, but it's not important. That box I call delusion. That is also the place where busyness lives. And it's really easy to get trapped in this box. It happened to me this morning. I got a survey from somebody. It needed to be in by lunchtime. And I found myself spending time that I didn't really have filling in the survey. And then I thought, well, hold on a minute. This is just delusion. It's not important to me. It might be important to them, but at the minute I've got other fish to fry. So again, I encourage you to make a list of things that fall into this box for you. And that's an addition to your not to do list. So now we come to the stuff that's important. Remember, that means it's going to get us closer to our goals. It pertains to our goals. So this box here, this is all about demand. There's a timeline on it and we just have to do it. It'll get us closer to our goals. Now I always write that in red and you'll see why. This is stuff that we just have to do. This is stuff like signing the wages, paying our tax, attending certain meetings. Attending other meetings might fall into this box. But this is where most business owners, most business leaders will spend their time. And the danger with that is that that's where they'll get trapped. This box here, stuff that's not urgent, but it is important. I always write this in green and I call this the zone. More important than that, I call it the go forward zone. I will guarantee if there's anything in your life that were you able to do it insistently, persistently and consistently, it would improve your life, but you're not doing it. It's because it's in this box. So things like spending time looking after yourself, spending your time with your family, learning, developing, growing your network, coaching, both being coached and coaching your team. Look, it's not urgent. You've probably got this far without coaching. But will it help you achieve your goals? Absolutely it will. But we don't do it. And one of the reasons that we don't do it is because it gets squeezed out. You see, another way to look at this rather than a 2x2 matrix is imagine a round table, if you like, and the outer ring is this stuff. The next ring in is delusion. Then we've got demand. Now the table's of a certain size. The more time we spend here, here and here, the less time we've got for that, and it gets squeezed out. That's why we don't make enough forward progress as we should, because we're not allocating the time to those things that are in the go forward zone. So what I strongly suggest you do is understand for you what that is. I'm going to come back to this in a minute. And again, if you write to me, I'll send you a paper that I wrote some time ago on the default diary. And that really is a technique that you can use to ring fence the things that are in the go forward zone for you so they don't get squeezed out. The other concept, talking about time, that I share with all of my clients is this. Now, again, a simple graph. There will be things that you do in your business that are low skill and things that you do that are high skill. There will be things that you do that are low value and high value. So low value, low skill, high value, high skill, and there'll be a load of things in between. One of the really important things to do, I believe, is understand the 2 or 3 things that are high value and high skill that you and only you can do in the business. All of this stuff you delegate. Now this is easy said, but delegation is a skill like many other things, and doing it well isn't easy. And what you're trying to do is constantly move out, so you're only left with a few things that you and only you can do. I mean, why would you, as the business leader, ever think of spending your time doing stuff that's low skill, low value, that somebody else could do? One thing to help you in this decision-making process is work out how much your time's worth. And that's where many of us go wrong. We still think our time is worth what it was when we were working for the man, when we were part of a corporation, when we were being paid an hourly or a weekly or a monthly wage. But that's old thinking. It's a different case now. You need to upgrade how you think about your time, because if you don't value it, nobody else will. And the way I would do it, it's not strictly accurate, but I would take the turnover of the business, I would divide it by the number of weeks every year you work, and then I would divide that figure by the average amount of hours that you spend working in or on the business. That actually tells you how much turnover you're responsible for each hour. And it'll probably come to 400, 500, 600 pounds. It'll be a much higher number than you probably originally thought of. So just think, is the work I'm doing in this hour, is it generating 400 or 500 pounds? Because if it's not, you're actually costing the business. So if you're going to the shops for the sandwiches, if you're making the tea, think, should you be? And the final thing that I want to share with you in terms of time, I want to talk to you about the 3 S's of execution. The first one is very simply schedule time. And as I'm writing that down, I know that you'll be thinking about it and you'll be realizing that there's lots and lots of stuff that you've committed to do that you've never got done, but you've never scheduled time to achieve it. If you don't set aside the time, how do you hope to achieve it in the first place? The second S is very simply show up. At the scheduled time, show up as though it was an appointment. So to do this video this afternoon, I scheduled time and I've shown up. And the third S is single task focus. So I've scheduled the time, I've shown up, and I'm going to spend my time doing what I committed to do. Nothing else, just that. So they're the 3 S's of execution. So in this short video, I've given you 3 models and 3 ways to help improve what you do with your time. The biggest waste of time is doing stuff that you shouldn't be doing in the first place. So, 3 S's of execution, the skills value matrix, and the urgent, not urgent, important, not important matrix. I hope you find that useful. If you need any more information on this, if you need any more collateral, just email me, ian@kinnery.co.uk, or visit my website, kinnery.co.uk. Stick around for the rest of the World Class Basics series.